Thank you very much, Mr. Sharma, for being with us today. This evening you will talk about the Commonwealth and the global challenges. So what is your number one global challenge, and what is the Commonwealth doing about it?
In the Commonwealth, we take a holistic approach, which means that there has to be a balance in the agenda which you pursue. And this balance actually consists of what I call 3 watchwords. And these are democracy, development, and diversity. So we work equally in all of them. But I would say that we are a value-based organization, and we pursue values very strongly. This is what our leaders wanted and our heads wanted. So I think if you wanted me to say, well, one of these 3, what are you known for the most? I think we are known for pursuing rights-based development, what we've done for human rights, what we've done through Latimer House principles for the separation of the 3 pillars of governance, what we've done for constitutionalism, what we've done through our Commonwealth Ministerial Action Group for serious and repeated violations of member states, what are the principles we have enunciated in local democracy through our Aberdeen principles. We have a famous Harare principles, which President de Klerk said, these are my guidelines. The Commonwealth Harare principles are my guidelines. So our contribution on values, principles, and rights is perceived as the biggest contribution we've made.
Now, the Commonwealth is made up of both very rich countries and very poor countries. What benefits does the Commonwealth's membership give those countries, both the rich one and the poor ones?
It's very interesting the way the Commonwealth grew. It came progressively. It was 8 members in 1949, now it is 54. As countries became independent, they had a choice to join the Commonwealth. So they pretty much came singly, or maybe in some cases 2 together, but mostly progressively and over the years. And the biggest advantage for a small state is that their presence in the Commonwealth immediately internationalized their outlook. Because we are like a club. In the Commonwealth, Tuvalu, with about 10,000 people, and India, with 1 billion people, have equal time. Our culture is unique that way. We believe that anybody, any leader in the world, irrespective of size of country and size of population, can have a global idea whose time has come. And therefore, in our meetings of the heads, everyone has equal time. This is a very rare thing for small states to have, because their experience in the mainstream of global negotiations is that they find themselves very often in the margins. The rich countries are the older Commonwealth, who were always there even from the earliest days. The others, who are now getting richer and richer, were not rich when they joined. India, Malaysia, Singapore, some of these countries that are now mentioned as doing better. And this gives another dimension to the Commonwealth, which is that it has the older developed countries, it has the emerging economies, it has small economies, 32 out of 54. Population less than 1.5 million. It has island states, it has landlocked states, it has all the faiths, all the people. It's a perfect template of the world. So when we say something, it is immediately seen as potentially a global idea, because there could hardly be an organization which has so much variety implicit in it. Recently we said something on climate change. We've said on migration, we've said on health workers and education workers' protocols. We said something on debt. A lot of other ideas came out of us, and they became global ideas.
I have seen from your biography that you worked on the adoption and the formulation of the Millennium Development Goals. What would you say is the status of the MDGs today?
I think you're referring to my time as the Indian ambassador to the United Nations. I was involved in 2, what you might call global developments. One of them was I chaired the working group right to the end on what became the Monterey Consensus. That's, I would like to think that's a turning point in the way developed and developing countries work, and led later on to the Paris Agreement, to the Accra Plan of Action and so on. A proper balance between resources and governance was the very big achievement of Monterey Consensus. I chaired that, and then I took a very active part in developing these 8 lines of Millennium Development Goals, and the idea was a very simple one. What is it we want as citizens of the world? What is it that we find the least acceptable in terms of the indignities which we have to suffer? If we can find out what it is, then let our national policies, let our regional policies, let our domestic efforts and efforts on the grassroots, let global policies, multilaterally, let bilateral aid instruments, all of them strive to achieve them. It was a historic moment, really, because that was the first instance when the world community said, for all of us, jointly, these are the goals.
Mr. Sharma, the Commonwealth does a lot to promote good human rights practices. Are there mechanisms that you are adopting to tackle specific issues in specific countries?
Well, the first principle is that you must agree on the values which all of you have to live by. All of us are, in our growth, in our democratic development, at different points of the road. But do we all agree that we value the same set of ideals? And that is the case. It started in Singapore in 1970. And as I said earlier, we have progressively built upon them. Having had that benchmarking and that standard setting, then we offer, on a voluntary basis from the member states, what help they want. It could be help to subscribe to your basic covenants and core covenants, because they don't have the capacity. So we do capacity building there. It could be an institution building. They say we want an election commission, we want a human rights commission, we want any other kind of body which contributes to human rights. It could be legislative drafting, something in the judiciary. It could be public administration. It could be sensitizing your security forces, particularly police, in what is rights-based policing. We are very, very strong in that, and we've done a lot of it. So we have a very wide spectrum of the work we do depending upon what member states want from us. And I think if you look at what practical advancement has been possible in our member states over the decades because of this engagement, this will be a very, very impressive list.
Mr. Sharma, you have had a very interesting career path, and many of your posts have looked at poverty eradication and stimulation of economic growth. What triggered your interest in these issues?
I was in the Indian Foreign Service throughout. I retired from it. I was twice ambassador, once to the UN in Geneva, in multilateral world, and once in New York. Development work has been my interest throughout, which is to say always I've tended towards that form of activity where you can, make a contribution and see that some contribution is being made to what you might recall, what you might think of as basic human needs, and a show of solidarity. I've been very conscious of the fact that India, in all the work that India has been doing, should also share with the outside world, particularly the developing world, the work it has been doing. So I always went, even at headquarters, to that part of the work which will make me do this. And all my 3 postings in headquarters were concerned with this. And so when I was in Geneva, obviously with UNCTAD and other work which I did was all geared in this direction, on health and so on. When I went to New York, then I chose the second committee work particularly for attention, and I did this work which I mentioned just now on MDGs and on the consensus, Monterey Consensus. After that, the Secretary General of the UN, Kofi Annan, sent me to East Timor because he said, this is just down your line. There's security to be done, but above all, a lot of grassroots work has to be done in this independent country, and you have to get it started. You're the first special representative of the UN. So I did that for 2 years. Then I was 4 years High Commissioner of India in London. And then I was elected as Secretary General of the Commonwealth because Asia had never offered a candidate. There was a large sentiment that there should be a candidate from Asia. And our Prime Minister, I know for a fact, was approached by many member states that, India should put up a candidate. And possibly because of my background, the government selected me as the person they would like to field. And the member states were gracious enough, or rash enough, if you think, to appoint me.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sharma, for being with us, and we look very much forward to your presentation this evening.